Walk in peace. Even if the world is loud, you didn't come here by accident. Maybe a part of you is searching for peace. If that's true, then subscribe to Buddha Pray and stay with me until the end. Because every day, this place holds stories whispered just for your soul. Let me ask you something strange. Have you ever felt that the quieter you become, the louder the world gets? The more you try to be calm, the more others try to provoke you. And slowly, you start to wonder, is being gentle a mistake? Is being kind a weakness? In a world that rewards noise, pride, and power, can a quiet heart still survive? Meet Thomas. He's not a famous man, not wealthy, not even the kind that people notice, but he walks in peace. While the world around him screams for attention, he chooses stillness, not because he has no voice, but because he's found something deeper, something the world doesn't teach, something you and I may have forgotten, but perhaps, just perhaps in this story, will help us remember. So sit back, take a breath, let go of the noise, and listen. His name was Thomas. He had been the gatekeeper at Rosehill Hospital for nearly 25 years. Every morning he would unlock the gates before sunrise, nod quietly to the nurses, smile at the elderly, bow gently to strangers. He didn't speak much. People said he was slow. Others said he was strange, too quiet. Some even called him the mute man at the gate, but Thomas didn't mind. He had no need to defend himself. He simply showed up every single day, calm, kind, invisible. Doctors rarely remembered his name. Visitors passed him without a glance, but there were children who always waved to him from the school bus. "Good morning, Mr. Thomas, it's a beautiful day." And he would smile, like the world had just spoken kindly. One day a new hospital director arrived, young, sharp, ambitious. He didn't like how Thomas looked. He didn't like how Thomas acted. Too slow, too quiet, too old-fashioned. And one morning, he saw Thomas gently open the gate to let in a homeless man who needed to use the restroom. Furious, the director shouted, "This is a hospital, not a shelter. Who gave you the right to decide who comes in?" Then coldly, "You're dismissed. Turn in your keys. Leave now." Thomas said nothing, no anger, no defense. He just bowed and left. No one noticed he was gone. No one thanked him. The world moved on until 1 week later, a fire broke out in the hospital's electrical room. The alarm system failed. Panic spread. People screamed, rushing through locked hallways. Doctors cried, "Where's the key to the side exit? Who has the basement door code?" Thomas used to open those doors every morning. That's when they remembered. He was the only one who knew every lock, every passage, every escape route. Desperate, someone called an old security guard. "Where is he? Where's Thomas?" He was at a monastery, offering tea to the monks, quiet, still, at peace. They begged him to return. And when he did, he didn't scold, he didn't mock, he just opened the doors, one by one, as if he had known this moment would come. After the smoke had cleared, the new director came to him, ashamed. "Why didn't you fight back when I fired you?" he asked. Thomas looked at him, eyes gentle, voice soft. "I don't walk with pride," he said. "I walk with peace. The world is loud enough. I don't need to make more noise." People started calling him the gatekeeper of peace. And though he never wore a suit, never held a degree, never spoke more than needed, he taught everyone, in silence, what dignity really means. Thomas never preached. He never spoke of enlightenment. He never quoted scripture. But in every quiet act, he lived the Dharma. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha teaches, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." Dhammapada, verse 100. Thomas didn't need to speak. His silence was a teaching. His stillness was a sermon. He showed us that you don't need to raise your voice to raise your value, that when the world pushes you to react, you still have a choice to remain grounded and to walk in peace. This is not weakness, this is true strength. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha said, "The one who is patient, who endures abuse without anger, he is the true spiritual warrior." Thomas did exactly that. He lost his job, he was insulted, humiliated, and yet he chose peace over pride. Why? Because he understood something that most of us forget. You don't always need to prove your worth. Sometimes your peace is your proof. He walked the same steps every morning, unlocked the same doors, greeted the same world without needing anything back. That is dana, the Buddhist virtue of selfless giving. If beings knew, as I know, the fruit of giving and sharing, they would not let a meal pass without sharing. Itivuttaka, the words of the Buddha. Thomas gave every day, not money, not word, but presence. He gave safety, trust, space. And then, when chaos came, the world remembered him. Not because he demanded recognition, but because his kindness had taken root. In modern life, silence is often mistaken for ignorance. Kindness is mistaken for weakness. But in Buddhism, it is said, "He who conquers himself is greater than he who conquers 1,000 men in battle." Dhammapada, verse 103. Thomas conquered himself, his ego, his need to be right, his instinct to fight back, and in doing so he left behind something rare, a legacy of peace without pride, a reminder that the loudest person in the room isn't always the wisest, and that the gatekeeper might just hold the key to the very heart of wisdom. So now, I ask you, have you ever been Thomas? Have you ever chosen silence when every part of you wanted to shout? Have you ever been kind and misunderstood for being weak? Have you ever wondered if your quiet dignity still matters in a world so loud? If the answer is yes, then let me remind you of something you may have forgotten. Your peace is not a sign of surrender, it is a sign of power. In a world that values noise, you are allowed to value silence. In a world that worships pride, you are allowed to walk humbly. In a world that pushes for reaction, you are allowed to respond with wisdom. And maybe, just maybe, that is how real change begins. Not with protests, not with shouts, but with a soul that refuses to be disturbed, even when the world tries to provoke it. Thomas didn't save the hospital with arguments. He saved it with stillness, with presence, with remembering what others forgot. And now, it's your turn to choose how you will respond to a world that's always watching, waiting, testing you. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will appreciate your quiet way. But the universe is always listening, and karma never forgets. So be kind, be silent when needed. Stand up without shouting, serve without recognition, and above all, walk in peace, even if the world is loud. The questions for your heart and comments. Have you ever stayed silent and regretted it? Or have you ever reacted in anger and wished you hadn't? Do you believe kindness still has a place in this world? Tell me in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone needs to hear tonight. The final message. If this story reached something in you, don't let it end here. Share it. Send it to a friend who's been hurting, to someone who forgot they matter, to someone who's trying to stay kind in a world that keeps testing them. Subscribe to Buddha Pray, where every story is a mirror for your soul, because we don't just tell stories, we awaken something that was always inside you. And if no one has told you lately, you are enough, even in silence, especially in silence. So go on, light a candle, take a deep breath, and remember, the loudest victory is the one you win quietly.